Hey there, Hofstra fans, and welcome to another edition of the WB Mason Coaches Report right here on GoHofstra.com. I'm Mark Weiner, joined by head baseball coach John Russo. Coach, how's it going?
Good, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Now let's talk about quickly that JMU series, then we'll kind of recap the season. You take 1 of 3 from the Dukes. What did you see in that series?
JMU played a little bit, played well at home. Most teams in the conference play really well at home, and came out Friday and got going a little bit early. And then was able to hold on. I thought we came back pretty well in that game. And then, was able to take one on Saturday. I thought, Alec Eisenberg pitched really well. I thought the offense came through great. And Matt Annunziata had a huge 2-run homer late in the 8th to put us up. And then, it just worked out really poorly, in the game yesterday to lose so poorly. It was Spanky McFarland Day. He retired after 30-some years in coaching and probably one of the biggest legends in college baseball. So, they had a big momentum day and a big weekend for them.
Now, obviously, you guys missed the tournament, even though there is another weekend coming up in the CAA. But let's talk about the positives first. Stephen Foster, the freshman, leads the team in batting average, 351, 21 RBIs. Just a fantastic season in his freshman year.
He's had a great year. He's as good as freshman as I guess there is in the CAA, maybe as good a player as there is in the CAA. He can beat you in a lot of ways. He can beat you with singles. He's hit a couple home runs. Can steal bases. He plays great defense. I think if you were to talk to most opposing coaches, probably one of their favorite players, that they played against, and you can't say enough good compliments about Stephen Foster.
Somebody else I'd like to touch on is your second baseman, Brad Bukowski. Another strong year from him, ends up batting 312, 22 RBIs. He was very good last year at the end of the year, and then kept it going this year.
He did basically the same type of season. Struggled early, and then once conference players started, as good a probably second baseman infielder as there was in the CAA, and 2 good years with Brad. Like to still see Brad develop a little bit more this summer, get a little stronger, get a little bit bigger, maybe do a little bit more power numbers than what he had this year. I think if he could drive in some more runs overall in CAA play, it's all fair goals. But Brad had a great year and just needs to keep building on it.
In terms of the rest of the offense, you had a bunch of other players who had pretty good averages, were young as well. So what do you want to see? Who are the other players you want to see develop more going into next season?
I think some guys just need to take the next step. You have like a David Lederman, who's been a 2-year starter, a sophomore, and I thought both seasons had really good seasons until right up at the end and faded a little bit the last couple weeks to have it. But he was having a strong year and has a chance to go to a real nice summer ball place. And I think he needs to keep getting physically stronger and physically keep getting better. And I think towards the end of the year, Matt Annunziata was one of our biggest hitters, and you return, those 4 kids. I think the last 3 weekends, Jake Fallon has been as good a freshman as you could have had. He was actually freshman, All-CAA Freshman of the Week last week, and kept putting together good weekends. I think in conference play, hit over 400, and so from the position player-wise, and what we have returning, we have a lot returning at the plate that can help us.
In terms of the pitching, obviously one of the low points of your team, a 6.93 team ERA, but there is promise from a couple of your pitchers, guys like Alec Eisenberg, you mentioned to me every week. So in terms of pitching, what did you like and what did you not?
I think having Alec come back, Alex, as any player on this team, has probably made as big a transformation in the last half of this year as any kid on the team. Each week you can see him basically getting better, doing something. Throwing the ball, he's always been able to throw well, but now he's gotten a little tougher. He's gotten mentally stronger. Now he's gotten more of a chip on his shoulder, and each and every week it's better and better. And I think he ends this last one with 8 innings. He went around 119 pitches, but on a pitch 114, he was still 91 miles an hour. So his fitness is improving, and I think he's going to get stronger this summer. We're going to return Brendan Mulligan. It was unexpected that he's going to be able to come back for a 5th year, and he was as good a reliever as we had at the backside of the bullpen. Chris Weiss returns. I really like the year that Chris Weiss had, and we got to get some guys to get better. Adam Heidenfelder, Adam Seibert, and Chris Bonk. Need to have better years, and some guys just need to get a little bit better. And we need to throw more strikes. We need to be more competitive and. CAA play, I think outside of CAA play, our ERA is really good, and we win a lot of games. And then inside the CAA, it's not as good, and we just got to get tougher and battle harder.
You lose a bunch of seniors, but now a new season begins, the recruiting season. So when you go out there recruiting, what's the main thing you're looking for to improve your team?
I think I'd be very, remorse not to try to add pitching if we can, and I think we're losing a couple guys off the hill that, helped us throughout their career, Nick Kozlowski and Kevin Weiss and McDonald and Luke Noon, and, so they've logged innings and been there and good workers. And, I think we're losing 4, but you return a David Jesh, who was out the year with Tommy John, and then I think we've added something like 6 signees and pitchers, so we'll have more depth than we've had in the past, but you need some other guys to develop. Like Patrick Bryant came mid-year and he had a really nice outing this weekend, and if Pat can keep working on with that and settle in and really build off it this summer, he's another really addition. Even though he pitched this year, it's just been a whirlwind for him. I think he's another guy that can develop, and so we have a lot of promise on the staff. And the one thing is we'll be a little bit young. We'll have the 6 freshmen next year. You'll return 4 sophomores, and so 10 young kids. But I think that's the way you've got to do it, is develop within your program, get young kids playing time right away, get them the experience, and then be able to compete in CAA play as they go along.
Finally, Coach, just sum up this season for us. What can you take out of this season going into next season, and how excited are you to just look towards next season already?
It's always tough. I love my senior class, and there were a lot of good kids in the class, and there's not one that I'm not going to miss. And I think the heart and courage that they played with all the time. I mean, we faced adversity a lot of different times this season, and from being down even on the other day at James Madison, down 7 early and get it to 6, an inning or 2 later, and continually battle and give effort all the time. And the other things they did is they did stuff right off the field. They did great with GPA and leading the kids in the right direction in the weight room, and and hopefully that the team can build off of all those things that those kids showed them. And looking forward to next year, we'll have somewhere 12, 13 new kids again. So it'll be about 25 kids in the last 2 years. You get a Nick Batari back that was sat out this year from Miami to help the position players, and you had a couple really good recruits, a transfer from Wilmington in this class, and I think we have a lot of the nucleus that builds strong core base, and I think that's the one thing the seniors see. I think it's the one thing the team sees. How you mentioned Amanda Nunziata, Stephen Foster, everybody can see it. Everything's heading in the right direction here, and we just got to keep building on it and break through. We lost a lot of tough games in the CAA play, but CAA doesn't define what we're doing here or what we're doing with the program. The program's in the right direction and going the right way.
For one final time this year, it's the head coach of the Hofstra Pride baseball program, John Russo. Thanks so much for the time all season, and good luck on that recruiting trail.
Mark, thanks just for everything. I appreciate it.
All right, I'm Mark Weiner. This has been the W. Mason Coaches Report. Check GoHofstra.com all summer long for updates on the baseball program.